begin the Quran Daf Masech the Shabbos Daf Kufchav Beis. Begin 9 lines down at the top of the Yomid. We continue with the halacha, the next Mishnah. Continuing on this theme that we introduced in the last Mishnah regarding the laws of Amir La'akim, telling a non-Jew to do something forbidden on Shabbos. Ashir's co-sponsors Bekazach in Cheskel or anytime Daf Chaim. Appreciate everybody who's joining us. Some of the things we're going to be discussing today's Daf is when a Jew may and may not benefit from the malacha done by a non-Jew on Shabbos. Additionally, whether it makes a difference if the non-Jew knows the Jew, is what's called makira, if he recognizes him or not. Also, we're going to discuss, starting the next parak, regarding our kalim that have doors, that the doors of the kalim, whether they came off, they became unhinged or not, if they're not considered muktzah, and as that relates to the laws of bain and seis regarding building and destroying that of kalim. Some important terms and concepts we're going to learn about in today's daf are what's called kelim shemalachtan le'isr. If you have a vessel that's usually used for prohibited activity, like a classic example is a hammer. A hammer, its intended function is to go ahead and build, which is forbidden malacha Shabbos. So that vessel now is a muktzah item because it's a kli shemalachtan le'isr. It's general usage for something that's forbidden. And additionally, the concept of binyan b'kelim, which is regarding the halacha of when the lamates malacha is building something on Shabbos. There's a machlekes regarding if there's such a malacha building regarding something that's not attached to the ground, like a vessel. The concept of what's called ner le'echa ner le'meya, which is if you light a candle for one person, it's the same thing for 100 people. You're not going to be adding any more light if more people are going to get that benefit. We'll see as that comes into the halacha of having benefit from malacha of a non-Jew. Additionally, this idea that we said regarding kelim shemalachtan le'isr, although it's muktzah, but it may be moved what's called the tzeref gufa, is one of the more important halachas of the laws of muktzah, where you have something that, although you have a hammer lying there on the table, and it's a muktzah item, however, if you are moving in the tzeref gufa, let's say you want to use it for a permitted Shabbos function, like cracking open nuts, that would be a permitted function of that muktzah item. So we begin the current daf, Shabbos Daf Kufchav Beis, 9 like Daf at top of the Yomid, where we begin a very important mission over here, because the previous mission we spoke about Amir La'akim. This is a halacha that many people don't know, that you're not allowed to tell a non-Jew to do something forbidden on Shabbos. There's a second halacha that could be almost unrelated to the halacha of Amir La'akim, which is hana. Forget about the idea about telling a non-Jew. Let's say you didn't tell a non-Jew to do something forbidden, but he's doing it for you and having benefit from a halacha that a non-Jew did. That itself is a separate rabbinic prohibition in the laws of Amir La'akim. It's not about telling the non-Jew. There's a lot of people who don't know this in halacha l'maisa even. There's a prohibition of having benefit from malacha done for you, even if you didn't tell the non-Jew. I didn't tell him anything, but if you did it for you, that's the topic we're going to see in today's Mishnah, that it's actually forbidden to have benefit from malacha that non-Jew is telling you, that non-Jew is doing for the non-Jew. As the Mishnah explains, the non-Jew lights a candle. So the Jew could go ahead and have benefit from that candle. I mean, say if a non-Jew lit the candle for himself, the Jew could have benefit from that. And Tais says the chiddush in that is that we don't make exera that if we let you benefit from it, you might come to light the candle yourself. As the Gemara says in sentence Beya, you're not allowed to have benefit from, let's say, fruits that fell off a tree because you might get up and rip it off yourself. Or if the liquid oozes out from a fruit, you're not allowed to drink that because you might come to squeeze it out. That's because it's just in general a very important halacha that Tais is telling us in halacha l'mais even, is that because squeezing out and tearing off, those are easy things to do, and the person is always chasing after that because they're food items. But regarding these things that we say in the Mishnah, it's not an easy thing to do, and the person's not chasing after it. So if a non-Jew lights a candle for himself, you're allowed to benefit from that. But says the Mishnah, the Mishmal Yisrael, but let's say he's doing it for the Jew. Asr, rabbinically, this is a second halacha in the laws of Amir La'akim. It's not a mirror, because he's not telling it to. But there's a separate halacha over here, that a Jew is not allowed to have benefit from a halacha that the non-Jew is doing for the Jew. Now, Taisa even says, moreover, that it's even forbidden for every single Jew. Because only when it comes to rabbinic law like chutz l'tchum, that where we find the Gemara even the Beya, that if it's done for one Jew, it's forbidden for another Jew. But when it's biblically forbidden, like in this case where it's a malacha d'oraisa, it would be forbidden for every Jew. Now Taisa wonders, although generally when the Jew cooks on Shabbos by mistake, you're allowed to eat it, they were not concerned that if we let you eat it, you might come to cook it b'mezid because it's a skila. Of course, a Jew is not going to just go ahead and do malacha. But the non-Jew does a malacha for a Jew. If you're going to let him utilize that thing, he might come to tell the non-Jew to do it for him, which is forbidden because of Amir La'akim. So include Amir La'akim as the Isra of Hana La'akim. And one might ask, which someone did ask on the previous shiur, and just not so long ago, he said that, what do you mean? We have a halacha that says if a non-Jew is coming to extinguish the fire, you're not allowed to tell him to put it up, but you don't tell him not to put it out. What do you mean? Aren't we saying over here that it's forbidden when it's being done for the Jew? So a very important halacha says Taisus. He says, when do we say that the non-Jew is doing it for himself, and therefore it's permitted? Like something like kibui. extinguishing the fire and things like that, with the Jews not really having benefit, there's a very important halacha in Amir La'akim, not having benefit from something that the non-Jew is doing for him. You're just not having a problem, but he's not actually giving you something. But over here, with the Jew is having benefit from the actual action, the malacha that the non-Jew is doing, we don't say Adai to the nafshi kavod, because the Jew ultimately is having benefit, and that's the Isra of Hana. So it's important halacha in general, let's say putting on the air conditioner and turning it off. There's a very big difference about putting on the lights and turning off the lights. Turning on the lights, even if you didn't tell him, but if he's doing it on his own, so although you didn't do a Mir Lakim like in the previous mission, but getting benefit, that's also, you're not allowed to have benefit from that. You have to leave the room. But if, let's say, he turns off the lights, where you do a permitted way, let's say of a mirror, that's not a mirror, let's say you do a remish l'bederech tzibur. Say, oh, I can't sleep with the lights on. So he never told him, it's like kol ha'macha bein ha'mafsid. And he goes, so he says, oh, he turns it off for you. So that's not the Isra of Hana, because he's not having benefit. It's just the absence of the light. He's not giving you darkness. So that's important halacha. But if he's giving you light, if he's, like in this case, when Bishvil Yisrael, it's also not benefit from it, even though you didn't do it. Isra Amir La'akim. That's case number one. Right. And these halachas we don't consider as a ber of chayshech. It's not considered something that he's giving you an active benefit and therefore be permitted. But in our mission, you're giving something actual of benefit, it's going to be forbidden. That's case number one. Case number two is, let's say milamayim. Let's say he fills up water from a pit near Rishus Haram. So to bring you that water, bring the water anyway, it has to be hitzah. He's carrying from Rishus Haram to Rishus Yachid. So let's say the non-Jew is it lahashkes behemte. He wants to give his own animal water to drink. So mashkach Rabbi Yisrael. So the Jew could go ahead and give his animals water from that to drink afterwards again, because he didn't do it for the Jew. But let's say let's say he sees the Jew and the Jew's complaining, oh, my animal, oh, he has no water to drink. And then he says, oh, I'll bring it for you, Max. You know, I know, whatever. And he goes and brings it for you. So now it's forbidden, because he did the malacha for the Jew. It's forbidden for the Jew to have benefit from malacha that a non-Jew did from on Shabbos. Case number three, asa nachri kevish le'ered. Let's say the non-Jew makes a ramp to come down from a ship. On the big ships, they have a ramp to come down to dry land. So yeridach le'er Yisrael. So if the non-Jew just made a ramp for himself, so then the Jew could go ahead and use the ramp. Again, the non-Jew did it for himself. But if Yisrael, if he did it for the Jew, then also it's going to be forbidden. And the Mishnah concludes with a story. Ma'aser Remulil Zikanim, Remulil with the elders, they came once on Shabbos. They came on a boat. And the non-Jew made a ramp to go down in it. Since the non-Jew did it for himself, so Remulil and the elders were able to go ahead and use the ramp to get off. Again, if he did it for them, it would be forbidden. Since he made it for himself, they're able to go ahead and come down. Now the Gemara explains with Shricha, why do we need three cases to say the same idea? They're all saying basically the same idea. If the non-Jew is doing it for himself, it's permitted. If he's doing it for the Jew, it's forbidden. Why do you need three cases of candle, of water, and the lamp? So the Gemara, we needed all three. The Yashmin in there, had we only said the case of the lamp? Yeah, because Mishim the Ner Echad Ner Lameya. By a lamp, when you light a candle for one is a candle for 100. So since the non-Jew is doing it for himself, he can't say, oh, he's going to add for the Jew. There's no adding in the light. The light is on. The light is on for everybody. There's no adding that you're going to be doing. But the second case in the Mishnah regarding water, where he's drawing water for his animal, ligzer, maybe you would think to make a gzeri, he might come to add, we're concerned that he might draw more for the Jew. So it's not just so simple for the Jew to have benefit from it after the non-Jew brought it for himself, because, he sees the Jews enjoying it, says, he might come to get more water for the Jew. Then we have to tell you that no, if he's doing it for himself, it's permitted for the Jew to have benefit from that water. And then says the Gemara, okay, but kevish lamali. What do you need the third case for? That seems to be exactly like the case of the lamb. Kevish le'echad, kevish lamei, like Rashi says. A ram for one is a ram for all. So therefore, it's the same as the first case. Says the Gemara, you're right, but Ma'aser Remulil Zikanim Kamash is coming to tell us a case that there was actual story of Remulil Zikanim. In general, we liked bringing stories because that shows that's the halach l'maisa, what's called Ma'aser Rab, that we see that the story done. Because of that story, as an introduction to that story, actually we'll see a chiddush in that story actually very shortly, but because we wanted to say that story, therefore we said that third case. That's the three cases where we said this halacha of Amir Lakim in the Mishnah.
How were they allowed to get off the boat on Shabbos?
So they were in the Tchum. That's they bring the story a few times. That he had this telescope and he saw where they were and whatever. So they could get off. But the thing is that the malacha was done for them to make a ram. So that's okay, because again, kevish le'echad, kevish l'meya, and he did it for himself. Now, Tarmo learn the Braisa, which explains the halacha of the Mishnah inside of it, as follows: Nachri shaliket asavim. If a non-Jew goes and he gathers grass, meaning he plucks grass, and he's taking it for his animal. So Michael Achrav Yisrael. So subsequently, after the non-Jew goes, and Rashi points out the word Achrav here is specific, because once the non-Jew did it for his own animal, then subsequently the Jew could go ahead and use it for his own animal. But let's say Vim B'Shlo Yisrael, let's say he does it for the Jew, and also then it's forbidden. Again, he did the malacha for the Jew. So too, let's say says the Brisa Mila Mayim Hashkiz B'Hamtei, similar like the case we had in the Mishnah. Let's say he fills up water from the pit in the street to bring back home to give his animal water to drink. So here too, Mashka Achav Yisrael, the Jew could go ahead now and give his own animals water to drink. But Vim B'Shlo Yisrael, he's doing it for the Jew, then also it's forbidden. Like again in the case of the Mishnah. Now, just very interesting, and it's also very halachically relevant. Tosfos brings from Rabbeinu Tam that why are we picking specifically for his animal? Why doesn't he say if he took water for himself, then the Jew could go ahead and use the water for himself? It says because it's specifically when it's for the animal, that if let's say he did it for the Jew's animal, it would be forbidden because you couldn't get your animal into the pit itself. You had to draw the water from the pit, which is Rosh Hashanah, and take it out to Rosh Hashanah. But the person himself, it actually, even if he did it for the Jew, he'd be permitted to have the water that the non-Jew brought from. Why? Because you didn't benefit from me. I could have gone into the pit myself. So therefore, although you brought it here and you did a malacha, but it's not intrinsic to my benefiting from it that you had to do the malacha. It comes up a lot of times when the non-Jew went and let's say brought it by car. I could have gone over there. You didn't benefit me anything be'etzim in the intrinsicness of this benefit. So therefore, actually, it says Rabbeinu Tam, for the person himself, he actually would be able to have the benefit from. It's not considered a full benefit because I could have got it in a permitted way. So the fact that you took it from the pit, I don't have to go down the steps into the pit and get it. That's not considered benefits. Therefore, it's specifically regarding the animal. Now, but here the Brisa makes a very important qualification. B'medva, and this halacha, very important in halacha. B'medva, when did we say this halacha that if, let's say, the non-Jew goes and does a malacha, let's say, for water or grass, that the non-Jew could afterwards have benefit from it? He's only she'ein makir. Doesn't recognize the Jew. Let's say it happens to be in a hotel lobby, a guy's warming up water. After he warms up the water, so the Jew could go ahead and use it. Ava makiroi, but if he recognizes the Jew, then it's going to be usur. Then it's going to be forbidden for the Jew, even if the non-Jew did it for himself. Subsequently, for the Jew to use it, it's going to be forbidden. Now, the assumption of the Gemara right now is because the non-Jew didn't do it only for himself. He knows his friend Max, is going to want to have some. So he's doing it for him also, therefore it's forbidden. If he doesn't know you, he doesn't know you. He doesn't know this guy, the Jew's in the hotel lobby. He warmed it up, so he did some malacha, then you could have afterwards. But if he knows the guy, then it's going to be forbidden. Says the Gemara, first the Gemara is going to ask first on the first part of the halacha. That is it really so that it's going to be permitted to use the grasses that the non-Jew did for his own animal? He was malakat asavim, and we said after he finished feeding his animals, so you can go ahead and take that. Is that really so? Can you really give your animals now after he left over from his? But it says, a person is allowed to put his animal by regular grass that's still attached to the ground, Shabbos on Shabbos to go ahead and graze, which Tosfos says, Tosfos addressing the question, what's bothering Tosfos is that how can you let your animal graze over there? It's doing malacha of Kailish. We have a halacha called Shvisas Behemtoi, so Tosfos brings from the Mechilton that it says, Laman Yinuch Shorcha B'Chamerecha. The reason why you're not allowed to have it do malacha is because it has to rest. The thing is, having an animal not eat from the grass that's attached to the ground is not resting, it's sat. So because of that, you're allowed to have the animal over there, grazing over there by the grass on Shabbos. And essentially what the halacha is saying, we're not concerned that if we let you have the animal eat, you might come to tear it yourself and feed it to the animal. We're not concerned with that. You can have your animal eating from the grass, and we're not concerned that you might then be tailish and violate the malacha on Shabbos. Aval, but, and this is important, this is what the question is from, lo yagabi muktzah b'Shabbos. You cannot have your animal be grazing on top of muktzah food on Shabbos. Why? Because you might come to pick it up with your hands and feed it to the animal. And therefore, by muktzah, we are concerned. By malacha deraisa, by tearing out, we're not concerned anything we do. But something like muktzah, we're concerned you might come to a different. You're actually not allowed to have your animal right there, put it there by the muktzah item to feed it over there. The problem is, here also, this grass is muktzah to move because yesterday it was attached to the ground. It was attached to the ground, that means to say it was only detached today, that makes it muktzah because by bein hashmash it was attached. That's a muktzah item. So how could you say that you could have your animal feed it over there by the grass that he did? So forget about the halacha the mila akum of having a no. You're right, that's not a problem of that he did the malacha for you. But the problem about muktzah, that you might come to pick it up, how you allowed to feed your animal from that grass? So you're right. He's not putting his animal right there. It's the kaimle about pup. He stands in front of his animal, that it can't go anywhere else. And the only place it could go is to the food, and it itself will go. But you're right, the owner, the Jew, is not standing on the grass right near there, because you're right, then when we were concerned, he might come to pick it up and feed it to the animal. That's a problem. You can't have a muktzah item and you're standing there because you might come to pick it up. But you can stand in the way and make that it walks there by itself. That's the case that we're talking about over here. Now, here we qualify the second half of the teaching. The time the Brisa said a very important halacha in this halacha that we said, when did we say that's permitted for the Jew to go ahead and use the water that the non-Jew went and drew for his animal is only she'ein makirei. If he doesn't recognize the Jew, the non-Jew did it for himself. He has some ibigalos tavasa, he has a leftover water or whatever it is that he did a halacha for. So the leftovers that the Jew could go ahead and use, he didn't do for the Jew. But we said it's only if he doesn't recognize the Jew. But if he lets he knows the Jew, then us it's going to be forbidden. Which the person explained exactly in the place. What's the reasoning for that? Why, if he recognized the Jew, is it because of this Shabbos, is it because of future Shabbos? But the point is, the non-Jew might be doing it specially for the Jew. On that says the Gemara, but wait a second. Rabbi Gamliel, the case of our Mishnah, Rabbi Gamliel, Makiroi Hava. Rabbi Gamliel was on the boat with him. They took a cruise, whatever it is, for a whole 2 weeks. Of course, he knew Rabbi Gamliel. So when this non-Jew is getting off the boat and he's making the ram to get off, he knows Rabbi Gamliel is also on the boat and needs to get off. You told me that if he's Makiri, not a benefit. How did Rabbi Gamliel was a king get off the boat on that ram? He recognized Rabbi Gamliel. It should have been forbidden. So the Gemara brings two interpretations. I'm about it. He says, when he made the ramp, Rabbi Gamliel wasn't over there. He was somewhere on the ship doing something else in the study hall learning, and therefore he didn't have him in mind. The only problem of Makira is if the Jew's over there. So if you're doing the malacha, so you have him in mind too, because you know you recognize this guy, you know he's going to need it too. That would be problematic. But here, where he wasn't around, he didn't have him in mind, and therefore it was permitted for Gamliel as a king to come down from the boat. That's one interpretation. Rav Amai gives a definite interpretation. He says, you could even say Gamliel was over there when he made the ram. But what's called ner le'echad, ner le'meya. A light for one is a light for 100. A ram for one is a ram for 100. Which Tosfos just points out. The Ri says, Abaya agrees to Rava that ner le'echad, ner le'meya. The only reason why he says it has to be that Gamliel wasn't over there is because, and this is also an important halacha l'maisa, if Gamliel would have been there, his primary intention would have been for Gamliel. Because Gamliel was a nasi, he was a leader, he was the head, everyone had deference to him. So he actually wouldn't even be doing it for himself, it would be primarily for Gamliel. That's why he says it was Shlei B'fanav, but Tosfos brings that Abai agrees, and that's actually halacha l'maisa, he agrees to Rava that a ram for one is a ram for 100. So if even Gamliel was there wasn't anything more being done for Gamliel. If he's making a ram for himself, it's automatically going to be for other people. But in contrast, by the case of the grass, yes, that's what the Rice is saying. If he recognized the Jew, he might to do more grass because of the Jew. He's like, okay, I know my neighbor, Shmuel, he likes to have, I know it's Sabbath for him, he can't do it. So if you're going to have benefit from it, even though he's doing it for himself, he might come to take more grass. For you, that's a problem, and therefore then it's going to be forbidden to be makir. It's only permitted when it's any makir. In contrast to the case of the boat, what's kevish lefet, kevish lemeya, that we don't have that problem. Now we continue with the brayse that says meisvei. The Gemara asks on this interpretation of Rava that he says this ner lecha ner lemeya thing from the following brayse. Because this case of the Mishnah we just asked from, we have a brayse that says a little bit more to the story. Amar and Gamliel says to them, wait a second, since he made the ramp not in front of us, we should go down on this ramp today on Shabbos. Now that's typical in Rava, because we hear from the brayse that it's only because it was not in front of us. But if it would have been in front of them, it would have been forbidden, even though there's no yarba b'shvila, you're not making any more ramp, you're just making a ramp, and it's ner lecha ner lemeya. So you see it's only because, like Abaya says, because it was shlei b'fanav. So Ema says, no, what you should say is, his words were, since he made it, which once he makes it, it's a kevish lecha, kevish lemeya, so neridbai, let's go down there. And the reason is not because of the words that he said that it was shalei b'fanav, that's just what the story was. In other words, the dogish, the stresses are not shalei b'fanav. The word you should read from was hayil, and take out, let's say, the word shalei b'fanenu. Make believe the word shalei b'fanenu are not there. Hayil asay, since he made it there, but let's go down there because kevish lecha, kevish lemeya. He just said shalei b'fanenu only because that's just the story. He says, when we were away, he made it, but it's not the away point. The point is that he made it. If he made it, it's ner lecha, ner lemeya. He's not doing anything more for us. Therefore, it's going to be permitted. But the Gemara continues asking on this halacha tashma from the Mishnah Masechtas Machshir. Mishnah says if there's a city, you have Jews and non-Jews that live in this city, and the bathhouse was open on Saturday. The bathhouse was being used, the spa was open on Shabbos. So says the Mishnah as follows. If most of the people in that city are non-Jews, so right after Shabbos, you're allowed to go to the spa. Right after Shabbos, long Shabbos, quickly. We got Glach in the spa. We're going in Ramada. We're going playing ping pong. We're going in the spa. You're allowed to go right into the booth, right away in there. Now that's because the majority of the city are non-Jews, and it was done for the non-Jews because you basically go after the majority. Now in Rav Yisrael, let's say that most of the people in that city are actually Jewish. It's actually interesting halacha. Yom Tov Mechdei Sheyicham L'chamen. Not only you're not going to have benefit from it on Shabbos, obviously, because it's being done for the Jews, but you actually have to wait Matzah Shabbos. The amount of time it takes for the bath to have been heated up is called Bechdei Sheyasa. So because we don't want you to have benefit that it was heated up on Shabbos, and that amount of time you have to wait. And as Rashi says, anything that was done on Shabbos, Chacham gave a measurement that you have to wait in the evening, what's called Bechdei Sheyasa, not the time that it takes to do Malacha, that's how much you have to wait on Matzah Shabbos. Now, over here, when the bathhouse is warmed up, you have the same concept of what's called Ner Lech and Ner Lameya. You have Chim Lech and Chim Lameya. If let's say one non-Jew wants to come to the store, to the spa on Shabbos, on Saturday, you're going to have to heat it up. Once you're heating it up, it's heated up for everybody, because you're heating it up at the same time. And we're saying here in the Mishnah that if the majority are Jews, that's similar to the case of Makira, where obviously whoever's the proprietor of this store, when he's heating it up, he's open on Saturday, he knows that there's obviously Jews in the city because they're the majority of the city. So he's having in mind that, I know the Jews come on Saturday night, they're doing it for them too. And you see that it's forbidden even though it's Shalei B'fanav. So it's difficult on Abai and on Rav. It's difficult on Rav because he says, wait a second, whenever you're doing it anyway for the non-Jew, even if the Jews are there, it's permitted. And it's difficult on Abai because he says, okay, it has to be Shalei B'fanav. Here's Shalei B'fanav, the Jews are not here. But you see if it's Makira, it's going to be Aser. So it's difficult on both of them. Which the Gemara says no. Hasam over there, Kima Mechamimi, when they heat up the bathhouse, Adaita de Ruba Mechamimi. Their intention is, to the contrary, is basically for the majority. The primary desecration of Shabbos was for the Jew, because that's the majority of the people in the city. But when there's a non-Jew and a Jew, and the non-Jew is doing it for himself, it's what's called Adaita de Nafshi Udav. He's always doing it for himself, and there's a where it's going to be permitted. According to Abai, it's only permitted when the Jew's not there. According to Rav, it's going to be permitted even when he is there. But when you're doing a malacha that's ner lecha ner lameya, the non-Jew's having himself in mind. But when you're a proprietor and you have a store and the majority of your city is Jews, it's not it's not my kiroi. It's primarily for them. Primarily for them, that's going to be forbidden. We must ask a similar question, Tashima, from the following brisa. Ner hadolik b'masiba. If there's a candle that's lit up in a party of people, so again, it depends. If the most of the people of that party are non-Jewish, so a Jew's allowed to have benefit from that light because it's done for the non-Jews. In Rabbi Shloimy, if it was put on for the majority of the people at that party are Jewish, so to us it's going to be forbidden. So here also, the way the Gemara explains, the way Rashi explains the Gemara's question is that it's similar to Makiroi. Since the majority are Jews, obviously, although that the person, let's say in the hotel, is putting on in the lobby for that party for the non-Jews, but he's also having in mind for the Jews, because they're the majority over here at this hotel for the weekend, and we see that it's forbidden. So it's difficult on Rava, because here, there's no Shema Yarba. Once you're turning on the lights, you're turning on for everybody. So, since you're doing it for the non-Jews, so why don't you say Ner Lecha Ner Lameya? Why is it going to be Asa? And actually, the Brisa says even one step more. That's even Mechza Metzah. That's not even majority Jews. Let's say 50-50. Still Asa is going to be forbidden. But why is it forbidden? That's like Makiroi. Makiroi, Rabbi says, not forbidden when it's something like that you don't add more. It's just Ner Lecha Ner Lameya. Says the Gemara on the Hasan Namidir also. When they're turning on the lights, as we continue on the base, you do it based on the majority. Since the Jews are the majority over there, they're the primary reasoning, and that's the reasoning why he's doing it. And Rashi says even that's the reason for Mechza too. Since you can't really ascertain, because you could say that the primary reason why he's lighting it is for the Jews, you could say the primary reason why he's lighting it is for the non-Jews, because like 50-50. So because of that doubt, we're going to say it's Asur. But again, if you have a Jew and a non-Jew, and the one who's lighting it is using the light himself, we say, of course, he's doing it for himself, because although he knows the Jew is there and the Jew is going to benefit, but that's just Ner Lecha Ner Lameya. But primarily he's doing it for himself. But when you're a proprietor, when you're a hotel manager, when you're doing this thing, and you're doing it for others, the main reason that you can do is for the majority, and if it's not only like Makiroi, it's primarily for the Jews, and therefore it's going to be forbidden. But again, when it's just Makiroi, then it's going to be permitted. The Gemara concludes this parak, this halacha, with a story. Shmuel Ikla Bei Oven Turin. Shmuel went to this place called the place of Oven Turin. Also, a non-Jew came along and Avik Shrug, and he lit a light. So Shmuel turned his face away because that's the halacha of Israel. He was concerned that the non-Jew was doing it for himself. To explain exactly what the case was talking about, but he was concerned that he's doing it for him. So he's turned his face because, like we said, if a non-Jew does malacha, you actually have to leave the room. You can't have benefit from it. Now, Kivin the Chazad Aisi Shtraba, once he saw that the non-Jew, the one who lit the light, brought a document. He brought the paper. Vikukari is starting to read. Amai says, Daidid and Avjudadli. He thought, imagine a Jew, this is a classic example. A Jew is away for Shabbos in the hotel, sitting in the lobby, it's dark. And he's sitting there in the dark. So the non-Jew comes and turns the light on. You're not going to benefit from it, because he's doing the malacha for you. But then he sees the non-Jew turns on, sits down, starts reading the paper. He's doing it for himself. So he turned his face back to the light. He was able to have benefit from it because the non-Jew, which is what's called Daita Dinamshikov, is doing it for himself. He's not doing it for the Jew. We shall return to you the 16th paragraph, the Shabbos Daf called Kisvei, which spoke about primarily as it opened up called Kisvei, all the holy writings regarding saving it from a fire. Which then we got into discussion regarding saving food from a fire, and then Stamazai putting out a fire, and then that led us to the halacha of Mir La'akim about a non-Jew putting out the fire, which then got us into halachas of a Mir La'akim.
Sometimes you have a guy that cleans your sidewalk from snow. So you have that. I mean, you don't have to say,
right. Yeah. You don't have to tell them not to do. There's also
he does it for you, mamish.
Right, so there also if that's qualified as having a benefit from it, or he's just removing a michshol, he's just removing a thing, and also that might be dangerous. Sometimes they say you could even tell them non-Jews. Some say you could even shovel snow yourself, maybe even whatever. But yeah, so that's the end of this peg, and that takes us into the next peg, which discusses another rabbinic law. We just spoke about Amir La'akim, which was rabbinic. Now we get into the laws of muktzah a little bit more. Parakol Kalim, all the vessels, which, as Rashi explains, we're talking about vessels that have doors. Let's say like a carriage or a box or a closet. So all these vessels, says the Mishnah, nitalim b'Shabbos. They can be moved during Shabbos. Now Taisa actually says the Gisa should not be nitalim b'Shabbos, it should be hanitalim b'Shabbos. All vessels that could be moved on Shabbos, we're going to tell you halacha regarding that, because Taisa says not every vessel can be moved on Shabbos, as he brings many different examples that you can't not move every vessel, every tool. So Taisa says the Gisa should be kalakim hanitalim b'Shabbos. All the vessels that can be moved on Shabbos, vidal same, and their doors that are on the side of that vessel, like a closet. If it's a kli, could be moved iman with them. As the Mishnah explains, the chiddush over here is ava pishin nisparku. Even if the door fell off the vessel, they can be moved. Why? Because that's not similar to the door of a house, which the door of a house that fell off cannot be moved. Because the doors of a house, they're not considered prepared to be moved because they're not a kli. It's part of the house. Once off the house, it was never a kli. If anything, it was part of the house. Now it's not part of the house anymore, so it's just a muktzah and it's just a door. But these doors of the kli, let's say of a movable closet, of a box, it was always considered kli. The door is part of the kli. It's just a hinge and it opens up and closes. So even when it comes off, it's never lost its status as a kli, because it was always a kli, and therefore you can still move it. A door of a house was never a kli to say when it's off the house, that's considered as a kli. So therefore that's one halacha. Continuing on the laws of muktzah, says the Mishnah, we talk about what's called kelim shabalachim l'isser, regarding vessels that their primary utility is for a prohibited item, but we're going to say that they actually can be moved, let's say, of gufa. They can be moved for, when we say gufa, there's two primarily permissibilities we talk about when it comes to kelim shabalachim l'isser. When it's a kelim, it's usually used for a prohibited item, for a prohibited activity. If it's for gufa, when you use it for it itself, you want to use it for a permitted element, like we're going to talk about, or what's called saraf makami, the place that it's taking up, you need that place. Those are the two classic categories that you could use. You could move a muktzah item of that of which is muktzah, what's called a klishim lachal isra. So says the Mishnah as follows: Neitel adam kornus. The person can take a hammer that's muktzah, because it's the klishim lachal isra. Usually, hammer is used to do baina, to build, or makam apatish, but it's not usually for a permitted activity. You could use lafatzei by esa guys to want to crack open a nut. Or let's say cardin, you could take a hatchet, laftin by esa dveila, to go ahead and cut the pressed figs. Because once you make it into a cake, it becomes very thick, it's very hard to cut like cheese, and you need like a hatchet to cut it. So you could take a hatchet, which is a klishim lachal isra, to use it for a permitted Shabbos activity. Or you can take a megera saw, which is like a knife that has many indentations, to go ahead and cut and to smooth off the cheese, because again, it'll cut very quickly in a thick thing. And so to my grave, you can take a shovel, ligrif by to go ahead and shovel out the dried figs from the barrel. You can take a tzarachet, you can take a winnowing shovel, or a malgiz, or a pitchfork, lusses level cotton, to go ahead and put on for a child some food. So again, these are all muktzah items. These are generally used for permitted Shabbos activities, but if you want to use it for a permitted activity, let's say you want to give the child some food to eat, you don't have a fork, you take a pitchfork, so that's permitted. Or let's say as a kush, you take a spindle, or as a karka, or a weaver's reed, you could use it litchayboy to stick on it, like almost like a shish kebab. You're taking like to put the berries or any soft fruit to stick it on. You could use those muktzah items to use for eating. Or let's say machat shalyad, you could use a hand needle, which is a small needle, which is used to stitch garments, little by sakoit, to take out a splinter. Or vishal sakum, you could take a large needle, which are used generally to stitch sackcloth. You could use it lift by sados to open up a door where someone lost a key. Many Jewish houses people lost the keys and everyone's using toothpicks and this and that, whatever. So here also you could use a needle, which is generally a muktzah item, if you're doing it for what's called a tzorech gufa, and this is a classic halacha in the laws of muktzah, for this permitted activity.
Maybe after that, on Shabbos?
So no, you could use it on Shabbos, any muktzah item. Actually, that's one of the tricks, so to speak, that people do. If you have a muktzah item, a klish mach l'isser, okay, there's discussion exactly when and how, but if, let's say you have a nut to crack and the hammer's on the table, so you take the hammer to crack the nut, and that would be a way of moving the muktzah item. You could use a klish mach l'isser is mutter l'tzayv moving l'tzayv makame. It was not prohibited in those situations.
What happens to the kiyum is concerned and hashmash is concerned?
It is muktzah, but it's muktzah only.
Change the status in the middle of Shabbos?
It does no. It has the status of muktzah, but it's not considered muktzah like a rock. We'll talk about which is it's intrinsically muktzah. Here it's muktzah because of its status, but when you're using it for a tzarech guf tzarech makami, that it's not muktzah for that. For that, it has a permitted function. Now the Mishnah said, "Kol hakel mitam." We said that all vessels could be moved on Shabbos. Now the Gemara reads the Mishnah a certain way. There actually is a gear, so we didn't read in the Mishnah that the word b'Shabbos, but it said in the Mishnah any kelim that could be moved on Shabbos, the doors with them, of even if the door came off, b'Shabbos. Now, what is the word b'Shabbos over here? Rashi explains that the Gemara assumes that when it says in the Mishnah, even if the door came off, that's going b'Shabbos. That's going on the word b'Shabbos in the Reisha, meaning, again, to read the words in the Mishnah. The Mishnah said any vessel could be moved on Shabbos, and the doors with them, even if the door came off. So the Gemara is assuming, when you say even if the door came off, it sounds like it's going on the word Shabbos, meaning that even though it came off today on Shabbos, it's still permitted to move the door. And lo mebayim, we don't have to tell you, if let's say the door came off on Erev Shabbos, for sure you'd be able to move the door. That's what it sounds like. Afa pishin isparku is the end of the sentence. And that's why actually some have it in the parentheses, but really it's not there. But let's say it says Afa pishin isparku b'Shabbos. It's almost like it says that. It said you could move it on Shabbos, Afa pishin isparku. So what's the Afa pi? The Gemara assumes the Afa pi is going, even if it fell off today on Shabbos, you can still move it. It's not muktzah. And for sure, says the Gemara, for sure, we don't have to tell you, if it came off already from before Shabbos, you're allowed to move it. Says the Gemara, Adrabah, to the contrary. What's the Afal Pi? To the contrary. Because it came off b'Shabbos, then you could say it's permitted to move it, because when Shabbos started, like we just heard before, the status starts on Bein HaShmashos, so Muchanim, it was prepared to move it al Gabi Avin, because it was part of the vessel. So therefore it has the status of the vessel when Shabbos started. It doesn't become muktzah on Shabbos. But B'chayil, if the door already fell off on Erev Shabbos on Thursday, on Wednesday, it's not going to prepare. It's a good tzbrach and a tear. It has no function at all. Why would you be allowed to move it? So what's the Afal Pi? To the contrary, if you tell me on Shabbos, Shabbos is the lesser of a chiddush, not Afal Pishin is spoken on Shabbos. If anything, you should have Pishin is spoken B'chayil. Because Shabbos makes more sense why it's not muktzah. During the weekday, I would say maybe it is muktzah. So the Gemara says, you're right. Omar Bai says, this is what the Mishnah is saying. You could move all vessels on Shabbos, but also say in the morning and with the doors with it. Even if it fell off, as the Gemara adds on the word b'chol, meaning what I'm saying, even if it fell off on the weekday, Shabbos, it can still be moved on Shabbos. Like Rashi explains, when it says in the Mishnah Afa Pi, the even though, which is telling you a chiddush, is not going on the falling off on Shabbos. It's just saying the chiddush of if it fell off, whether during the weekday or on Shabbos. And I don't have to tell you that if they're attached, of course you're allowed to move it because it's attached to the kli. So again, Afa Pi is not going on the word Shabbos. Afa Pi is just saying Afa Pishin is spoken, even though it fell off. When it fell off, not only Shabbos, even during the weekday, even though it fell off, it still doesn't lose its status as a kli, and it does not become a muktzah item. Now, related to this discussion, the Gemara brings, he's talking about the following brisa. Regarding the delis, we're talking about the doors of certain kalim. So a door, shal sheda, of a carriage, or shal table, of a box, or shal migdal, of a closet, says the brisa like this, Neitlin, you're allowed to take that door. Now it sounds like, as Rashi explains, that you're allowed to remove the door from the closet, from the socket on Shabbos. But you can't put it back in. Now, of a chicken coop, which is the structure they make for chickens to live in, now I take the door and I'll put it back in. As the Gemara is going to explain, because when you put the door back into the socket, it's literally building, and taking it out is sicer, is destroying. So the Gemara wonders. So Bishlam and Shalul Shultan, you might understand regarding the chicken coop, what your halacha makes sense. Is kasab because he holds since the chicken is attached to the ground. So yesh bin b'karka, there's building when something is attached to the ground. Yesh tir b'karka, there's destroying when something is attached to the ground. But Ella, I understand your first halacha. regarding a carriage or a box or a closet, which is not attached to the ground. What does the Tana hold? That he permits you to take off the door, but he doesn't let you put back in the door. If he holds, which is a machlekes, is there building regarding a vessel? So therefore, when you're putting it back in, we don't let you because it's building. So then obviously, if you say that there's building, so then yes, steer bekelim. Then there's destroying by a vessel. So why are you allowed to take away the door? Now, if he ain't steer bekelim, if there's no destroying by vessels, and if you let him take out the door, so ain't bein bekelim. So there's no building. Why don't you let him put it back in? Some Abaya says that lo'ilim kasava truthfully the Tana holds yesh bein bekelim, yesh steer bekelim. You're right. There's a problem of bain and seiser even when it's a movable item like a kli, when it's a box or a carriage or a closet. But vishenitli kamer. It's actually one case. It's if it was taken. It's saying a door of a box, of a carriage, of a closet. Shenitli. It's not telling you that noitlin you could take it. It's telling you if it was taken, then you cannot be machzir. Then you cannot put it back because of bin became. You're right. You cannot take it off. It's saying if it was taken off, you can't put it back in. I'm not only Rabbi. Rabbi says shtei tshuvas b'davar. Rabbi has two problems with Abai's interpretation. First of all, the nital gutani, or like some gear stories have it, the noitlin gutani. It doesn't say hanital. It says noitlin. It says you could take it off. Don't tell me it's just qualifying the case that when you can't put it back off, put it back in when it was taken off. Very moreover, says Rabbi, the wording wouldn't make sense. The syntax, because my avoloy mazim, what would be, but you can't put it back in? What do you mean you can't put it back in? You're not telling me that you can take it off to say, but you can't put it back in. You're saying if it happened to fall off. So it's avol. It's not avol. It's not but. It's not like you tell me one thing is permitted, one thing is forbidden. You never said you could take it off. Obviously, says Abaye, rather Rabbi says Kusavar, rather Tana holds in bin bekelim bein steer bekelim. No, there's no problem about building and destroying by kelim. Therefore, yes, you could take it off. So then why can't you put it back in? There's no bin in the steer bekelim. That's rabbinically. What's the rabbinic problem? There's a rabbinic decree that you might have to push it very tight with a knife or some type of a peg, and that's going to be gemar malacha. You just went and fixed the vessel. That's prohibited. You're right. There's no problem about binyan per se. There's no building, but with the building you might have a different violation, which does apply to kemush makam padish. That's what we're concerned for, and therefore rabbinically, and I'll put it back in. Kibbut halach in the Mishnah that said, we said, although a hammer is muktzah, but you're allowed to take a hammer to crack open nuts. You're allowed to take the splinter, the needle, take the splinter, all those different cases. And we actually have a machlekes how to learn this halach of the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehudi says, Kornishal agleizim. We're actually talking about a nut cracker. We're talking about a hammer that's designated to crack nuts. That's what the Mishnah is telling us, that you could take it to use it, what it's usually used for, which is lefatzeh, bayas agleizim, to crack open the nuts. Because the primary function of this hammer is for permitted Shabbos function, which is to crack open nuts, which you're allowed to crack open nuts on Shabbos. That's what the Mishnah is talking about. But actually, if it was a prohibited hammer, let's say that of a blacksmith, which primarily is used for a prohibited function, the blacksmith cannot do his malachas on Shabbos, actually says, Rabbi Yehuda, that line, actually you would not be allowed to go ahead and use that on Shabbos, even to crack open the nuts. Says the Gemara, Ksava, obviously Rabbi Yehuda holds as follows. If you have what's called a vessel that's used for a prohibited function like a blacksmith's hammer, we don't rule like this, but he holds even if you want to use it for it itself, for a different permitted Shabbos activity, it would be also be forbidden. You're not allowed to move it for that malacha. And for sure, if it's what's called just l'tzarech mekaymai, if you don't need it for its function itself, you just need its place, for sure he would hold that you're not allowed to move it. That's what Rabbi Yehuda explains. Again, you're only allowed to move a hammer to crack nuts if it's a nut cracker, which is a klisha malachtoi leheter. But if it's a klisha malachtoi le'isr, he holds, actually, that would be forbidden. Now, on that says the Gemara, Rabbi says, if that's the case, he says, then Sefer Diktani, how do you learn the halacha, the Sefer of the Mishnah? Some of the later cases in the Mishnah was that the esarachas and the winnowing shovel, the samalgis and the pitchfork, we said you're allowed to use it, lost a love lakatan, to give it to the child. Rachas umalgis mimiachti lakatan. Do you know anyone in their right mind, even if they live on some farm, that they use a pitchfork or they use a winnowing shovel that's designated for the child? In other words, he said, I understand all the other cases of the Mishnah. You're going to tell me that, it was designated for that to be used for that. That hammer is really a nutcracker, and that shovel is used generally to go ahead and then put into the bowl or whatever. You're going to find me, and you're going to explain me it's klisha mach leheter. But these, how you tell me it's a klisha mach leheter? It's not possible to tell me that this pitchfork is Sam the child, the 3-year-old's fork. This is what he admits by the cedar, and that's why you're allowed to use it to feed him. So Elam Rabbi disagrees, and he says no. Kunishal napachim. We're talking about that the hammer was that of a blacksmith. That is permitted. You're allowed to use it to crack open nuts. So the Gemara that's because he holds even though it is a vessel that's usually used for a prohibited Shabbos activity, but if on Shabbos you want to use it for the hammer itself, for a different activity that is permitted, which is to crack open nuts, mutter, that would be permitted to be done on Shabbos, and therefore that's the case that the Mishnah is talking about, to be used on Shabbos. Some of these we spoke about in today's Daf, in Shabbos Daf Kuf Chov Beis. We spoke about, continuing on this halacha of Amir La'akim, we said there's a second halacha that we didn't speak about in the previous Mishnah, which is the Isser of Hana. So not just regarding the Isser of Amir La'akim, about saying, he didn't say, but regarding if Anachi lit a candle. So if he did it for himself, so then we're saying that a Jew could go ahead and have benefit from the light, because like we said, Ner Lech and Ner Lamei, he's lighting for himself. It's going to be for whoever's around there, so it's going to be permitted. Now if he's doing it for the Yisrael, then it's going to be forbidden, because of the second halacha Amir La'akim, you can't have benefit from something a non-Jew did for you. Second case was also if you filled up water. Third case was also if there's a ram to go down with it. Why do you need all three cases? Like we said, first case you would have thought that's permitted because Ner Lech and Ner Lamei. Second case, however, you would think that maybe we should make a gzeira that he might come to do more water, because a Jew's going to drink the water, he might want to add for the Jew. That's what we're saying that no, if he's doing it for himself, it's going to be permitted. And the third case, why didn't we say the ram, was to tell you the Maisa of Ramulil Zakanim that in practice actually did that. Now, but the Gemara makes an important qualification. When did we say this, that it's going to be permitted is only ein makiri if it doesn't know the Jew? Makira, this is a very important halacha that people get mixed up on this a lot. If he knows the Jew, then it's going to be forbidden, even if he's doing it for himself. Because yes, Shemei Yar B'Shvil, that's the halacha l'maisa, he's going to be doing more for you. So even though he's doing it quote unquote for himself, he knows you're going to want that coffee, that you forgot to have that one, he's doing more for you, he's doing malacha for you. That's going to be forbidden to be done. So the Gemara says, Ayim Leal was my kiroi. How did he get down the boat on the ram? So the Gemara says, either Abaye says there's Tomat Shaloi B'fanav. He wasn't there. So even though he knows him, but out of sight, out of mind, like people say, and he didn't think about him when he was doing it. Or the way Rabbi says that no, kevish lachet, kevish lameya. Even if he's right there in front of him, but he's doing it for himself anyway, he's not adding anything more, then it's going to be permitted. Parenthetically, the Gemara just brought in, it came in the Gemara's discussion, that you now put your animal on a muktzah on Shabbos, because you might come to pick it up with your hands. We say, but the grass, you're right, you're not going to stand there, right there. You're just going to make the animal go there, because that grass that the non-Jew took, that you could take afterwards, since it's Eina Makiroi, is going to be muktzah, and therefore you can't stand right there. But if it's attached, then you could even stand right there when the animal is taking, and you don't have to stop the animal from doing it. We're not concerned you're going to come to actually tear the grass yourself. Then we asked, however, on Rava from a merchatz of a city, the majority are Jews. We see that the Jews are not have benefit. That's considered my kiroi, and we see that's going to be usher, even though it's a case of kevish la'after, kevish l'meya. Once he's heating up the bathhouse, it's even for one non-Jew. Why is it forbidden? So they said no, because that's adaita deruba. Since the majority are the Jews, he's actually doing it primarily for the Jews, not just like as an addition. Then it's going to be usher, and so do in the case of the lamb by the Mesiba. Again, if the majority are Jews, it's going to be forbidden according to all interpretations. Then we spoke about if, let's say, the non-Jew, however, is having benefit from it himself, like he's reading the paper, we're always going to presume he's adaita denav, he's doing it for himself. I tried seeing if I could make this big, but I wrote Hadmach Kol Kisrei Perek 16. That's supposed to be me. That my when I had my AirPods in, that my daughter made for me. That making l'chaim, we finished Perek Kol Kisrei, and we started Perek Kol HaKelim. We started the 17th Perek, which speaks about the laws of muktzah. We said all vessels could be moved on Shabbos with the doors with it, and even if they came off. Now, as the Gemara ultimately explained, the even is not going on the word Shabbos. It's not going on that. It's going on the even if they came off. But that's even on the weekday, for sure on Shabbos, because anything Shabbos would be less muktzah than during the weekday. And parenthetically, once we got into that discussion, we spoke about that there's no problem about being the steer b'kelim, but the problem is you can't put it back in to certain types of kelim as a gezer, because you might come to stick it in. That's going to be a different problem. Not a binyan, but makeh b'patish would be that problem. Then we said that the reason why you're allowed to move the door of a vessel, because it's not like a house. Because the house is not prepared, because it has no functionality about the house. But here, when it's a kli, it was always a kli, so even though it came off, it still has the status as a kli, and therefore it's going to be mutter to move on Shabbos. Then we said the second half of the Mishnah spoke about that you could take a hammer to crack nuts. Now, there was a machlokes if that specifically is a nut cracker, because like the first interpretation that of Rabbi Yehudi said that kli shel is also actually even a tzarech gufa, or is it even that of a blacksmith that although it's a kli shel isser, but it's a gufa, if you're using it for a permitted Shabbos function like cracking them with nuts, that's going to be mutter to use it on Shabbos. Thank you to any time for hosting us.